Good morning, learners. Well, maybe you find yourself in the position where you haven't read a book in a while. It's been a while since you've read really anything, and you're asking this question: why do people even read books? Why do they even do that? Why are they even spending their time reading their books? Maybe it just hasn't been part of your experience lately. You've done other things with your time, and that's okay. Well, here's a picture right here of the books that have been most popular in our class. These are the ones that people have wanted to take home. People have read them in their entirety in the few weeks that we've had so far in school this year. So I'm going to investigate some of the reasons that people might have read these books, which are, and I'll just name the titles: Mexican White Boy by Matt de la Peña. One of Us is Lying, Son of Hitler, which is a graphic novel that I think maybe 5 people have read. Far from the Tree, Ghost Boys, Dear Martin, American Street, and The Hate You Give. Ghost Boys and The Hate You Give and Dear Martin are books that I've had to order extra copies of because people really want to read them. So why do people even read books? And this question really leads to the main question that this video is going to seek to answer in a bunch of different ways. And that question is, what am I getting? What am I getting from reading my book? Which is a good question. It's a great question. It's one that you should ask yourself. You know, you should have an answer for this. And the answer is usually kind of complicated. The more you think about it, it's one of those questions that the more you think about it, the deeper you can get. And what am I getting is one way to say it. Another way to say this would be this word right here, which you'll hear me use a lot. And that word is value. Value is like, you know, what do I get from it? What's it going to do for me that's going to be worth anything or help me at all? What is the value? You know, value's like, it's like money, you know? Money has value. You can use it to buy things. Well, your experiences in life also have value or don't have value, really depending on what you're doing. So, what am I getting from reading my book? Some people, when they read, they have an emotional ride. This is like, you know, you care about the characters. You care about the characters, and you want to know what's going to happen. Is that guy going to do it? Is he really going to get revenge on his brother for his brother's life and kill that guy? Care about characters. And you want to see what happens. Will they be okay? Will they catch the bad guy? What are they going through? Are they suffering? Are they going to change? You know, that one guy whose dad was such a bad dad, he didn't do anything, you know, he wasn't around, he wasn't showing up, but now he wants to be different. Is he really going to be different? Is he going to come to the kid's last basketball game, actually show up? You want to find out. And you want to be happy for that character if his dad does show up. And happy for the dad if he's able to change and become a good dad. Another thing you might be getting from your book is, I like to call it the mirror of my reality. You know, life is complicated. I'll write that down. Life is complicated and very different for different people. You know, there are people in this world, lots of them, where their day starts every day with getting up before the sun. Life is complicated. With getting up before the sun rises, and they have to walk to find water. And then they fill that water in a big bucket, and they carry it all the way to where they live. And that's their reality. Well, maybe you don't want to read a story about that person's life because it doesn't have anything to do with your life. Maybe you want to read a story about someone whose life is kind of like yours. So if you have struggles in life, you know, like maybe money problems. A lot of people have money problems. Maybe you want to read a story where somebody has money problems and see how they handle it. See how they maybe get rich. See how they get rich. Maybe. That's just one thing. Or maybe you're somebody who lives in a neighborhood where not everybody has a job, or maybe, you know, your parents have gone through complicated stuff and you've been a part of it. You know, something as simple and common as divorce. But you read a story about it, you can say, oh, I'm not alone. There's other people who have been through the same struggles as me. It doesn't always have to be struggles. It could also be triumphs. You know, somebody came from a rough neighborhood, but they were able to get out, get really stable, and then they came back to that neighborhood and they gave something that was going to help everybody. So that's another reason. Another reason, which is totally different than both of these, is maybe you just think whatever you're reading about takes place in a cool world. Totally different than anything. When I'm thinking about these, I might be thinking about science fiction. Or fantasy. You know, a cool world where there's different rules. Different everything. You know, maybe there's spaceships. And maybe there's aliens. You know, or maybe there's wizards, magic. And the way that the author describes stuff is just like cool. It's like, and when you read that book, it's like you're visiting a place that's just awesome. And you like to go there when you read. Some people read books and that's what they're looking for. Just a chance to go somewhere else, feel something different, and see different stuff. Maybe you are reading a book and you're learning something that has to do with right and wrong. A lot of these books up here that people are getting into, well, I mean, if I look at like Far From the Tree is about a girl who, you know, she wanted to go to prom just like every, you know, regular high school stuff, but instead she had a baby on that day, and she actually gave birth to the baby on prom day, and then, you know, and then she's from a very complicated family, a different kind of family than, you know, you'd say is a traditional family. You know, she was adopted, she had brothers and half-brothers, and she's trying to unite all of them. So this one probably has a little bit of emotional ride, a little bit of mirror of my reality, depending on what your experience is like. Some of these other books, like The Hate You Give, has got some right and wrong in it, which really has to do with justice. And people want justice. In fact, one of these books has a character named Justice in it, Dear Martin. So justice, you want to see examples of, you know, people who are maybe fighting with courage for justice. That type of stuff, right and wrong. You can see it, learn about it. Another reason to read, this is one of my favorites that I'm into, but I'm older. I've really done all of these at different times in my life and different books that I've read. Another big reason, and like I said, one of my main reasons right now is to gain knowledge about things that I am interested in. To gain knowledge or understanding, so that would be like, I don't know, I think about myself and I like to learn about things like dinosaurs. I like understanding things. And everybody has things that they like to understand. Maybe you like to understand soccer. Maybe you like to understand different ways to have a career or different ways to interact with other people. But a lot of times these are nonfiction. And a real area that a lot of high school students like to gain knowledge in is they're really fascinated by World War II. They're interested in the Holocaust. They're interested in what it could have been like to live in Nazi Germany. And I think that's why this book, Son of Hitler, is so popular. Now, it's a work of fiction, and it's a graphic novel, but people are really interested in this, in gaining knowledge, and the cool world, and it's also a little bit of cool world. Cool world doesn't always have to be a good world. The cool world that's interesting could be a bad world. And this is what we call a dystopia. A dystopia is kind of like a bad world. Sometimes it's in the future, sometimes it's in the past. Son of Hitler, I think, could be classified as kind of a dystopia. Definitely Ready Player One, that a lot of people like, it is a dystopia. It's a bad world, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. There's cool technology. Things are different. And I think that when people look at Nazi Germany, they might be thinking about, wow, that was a bad world. But they want to understand that bad world because it is interesting to them. Another reason that people read, and this one is definitely, all these reasons they're all fine. There's not one that's better than the other. They're all good, and they all help you learn and grow your vocabulary and become just generally smarter. A great reason to read is relaxation. This would be like, sometimes people read just to get away. If you're reading the right book, it's almost like taking a little vacation from your life. And no matter if your life is good or bad or somewhere in between, everybody's probably somewhere in between, but it's still nice to take a vacation and go somewhere that's interesting or different. And so relaxation is a great reason to read. And the last one I'm going to talk about is accomplishment. There are some books that you read and you just feel a sense of accomplishment. And so you're reading the book, and maybe this should be true for every book that you read. Get a sense of accomplishment, because reading is always, it's not a little investment, it's a big investment. It's a big investment of time to read a complete story. So a sense of accomplishment, might be to read a classic book. We call them classic books. And if you have questions about these, what's a classic book? I can point you to them because I've read a lot of them. Classic books are like Catcher in the Rye, something that a lot of people have read and said, yeah, that's good. Why is the Catcher in the Rye so good? Because it really is a mirror of reality, maybe a very powerful mirror of reality, and that's why it's become classic, because a lot of people have agreed that that's really, really worth reading. Catcher in the Rye. There's other books, a lot of books that fit this classification. But these books, a lot of times, are challenging. They're challenging. They're not simple in the way that the story is designed and the language that's used, and so they are a challenge. And if you're able to successfully read an entire book like this, you should feel a sense of accomplishment, because it's not easy. So here we have a bunch of different reasons to read books, a bunch of different things that you can get from books, values that can come to you. Yeah, I read Ghost Boys, and man, was it an emotional ride, because I really cared. I wanted to know what was going to happen, and then at the end, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. This is an emotional ride. You might have an emotional experience. Mirror of my reality. A lot of these books, they can help you understand your reality, because, well, the most important thing is this one right here. And this might be, if there was one thing that reading can do for you that's really almost magical, is that you can be all by yourself and yet feel like you're not alone. And to me, that's almost magical, but I love reading. So what I want you to do right now is to turn the page over. And on this page, I want you to examine two different things. The first one is what I want to get from reading. So you can write that question there, and then, if you want to put your writing in a big box, you can kind of give yourself a big box. You want to fill up that box with what I want to get from reading. And right underneath it, you can write what you are getting, what I am getting from reading. You can fill up this box. Here, you're going to talk about your book that you're currently reading. Here, you're going to talk about your hopes, what you hope could happen for reading, because for some of you, and I need to know this, for some of you, when you look at all of these, you go, man, none of this stuff has happened for me. Well, that's okay. Which one do you want to happen? And you can refer back to this and look at it and think about it, and then fill up this space, and then talk about your own book. So you're going to mention the title in here. Have fun.